Well, ladies and gentlemen, what an absolute pleasure it is to welcome everybody here tonight to a sold-out Motor Point Arena in Nottingham, England. We are live on the zone for the main event of the evening. This is the rematch. This is the last man standing. 12 rounds of boxing scheduled in the super featherweight division. And it's all being brought to you courtesy of Mr. Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing. We're sponsored tonight by Betfred, Drip, Riyadh Season, North Defense, Fuel Hub, That Prize Guy, the 10% Club, and Everlast. This bout is sanctioned under the auspices of the British Boxing Board of Control. The steward in charge is Mr. Matt Harris. Introducing your three judges scoring this contest from ringside, all from the United Kingdom: Victor Lachlan, Kieran McCann, and Kevin Parker. And at the sound of the bell, your third man in the ring, A-star referee, Mr. Mark Bates. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the stage is set, and we are here. This is it. The time has come. I said the time has come. From the four corners of the world to the four corners of this ring right here in Nottingham, England, the fight starts now. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner. He wears the Leeds colors of white, yellow, and blue. He scaled 9 stone, 3 pounds, 11 ounces. Professional record, 32 victories, 4 defeats, 1 draw, with 8 wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former British, Commonwealth, European, and 2-time featherweight champion of the world from Leeds, England, the Leeds Warrior, Josh Warrington. Warrington. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the blue corner. He wears the Nottingham Forest green, gold, and white. He scaled 9 stone, 3 pounds, 13 ounces. Professional record, 28 victories, 4 defeats, with 17 wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the former British, Commonwealth, and WBA featherweight champion of the world, proudly fighting out of his home of Gedling, Nottingham, England, Lethal Leigh Wood.
Seconds away from battle here, but let's go to the Etihad for the latest on Manchester City and Newcastle with John Bennett.
Final score, Manchester City 2, Newcastle 1. Job done for Man City, 2 points behind Arsenal now. What a night for Nico O'Reilly. 2 first-half goals for the 20-year-old, but Newcastle made it nervy second half. Harvey Barnes close to an equaliser. Man City 2, Newcastle 1.
Final score at the Etihad then, and a score to settle here in Nottingham Arena. To talk us through it, Ronald McIntosh.
Well, both men are waiting the opening bell here at a raucous Motor Point Arena in Nottingham, and there it is, the first of 12 3-minute rounds in the super featherweight division. A rematch between the familiar rivals Leigh Wood from right here in the city of Nottingham and Josh Warrington, the Leeds Warrior. Leigh Wood coming out in the southpaw stance, the adept switch hitter, wearing predominantly white trunks trimmed with green and gold, the city of Nottingham colours. You'll see that on buses that traverse the city. The Leeds Warrior, Josh Warrington, in white trunks trimmed with yellow and blue, the colours of his beloved Leeds United. And it's Josh Warrington out of the orthodox stance, trying to come forward behind gloves that are held high, bracketing his head with his hands, and it's Leigh Wood on the front foot, letting go heavy southpaw jabs and purposeful left crosses in the first minute of this opening round of a non-title contest that is scheduled for 12.
Well, you can see what Leigh Wood is trying to do here straight away. He's come out as a southpaw. He's concentrating on that right hook. He's trying to catch Warrington as he's coming forward. Warrington's got to keep those hands really high, especially his left hand, because he's got to try and block that right hook. But tactics are plain and simple here from Leigh Wood, trying to bring him Josh Warrington onto that right hook again.
When these men met in October 2023, Josh Warrington was boxing beautifully. The contest came to a conclusion at the end of the seventh round in controversial fashion, and on the scorecards, Josh Warrington was leading for all three scoring judges. But it was a six-punch combination from Leigh Wood that put the Leeds Warrior flat on his back. Referee Michael Alexander, despite Josh Warrington beating the count, said that he was in no condition to continue as he staggered back to his own corner on the sound of the bell. That is the controversy that shrouded their first contest. Each man thinks that the outcome is going to be more convincing in their favour this time, as a lead right hook from Leigh Wood catches Josh Warrington, who seeks to respond with a front foot foray.
Yeah, clever boxing from Wood. He's sitting back and dropping his hands, so that's the trap that he's setting. He wants Warrington to come forward because of those low hands. Warrington thinks he can hit the target, and he walks onto a right hook. Got to watch what he's doing here, Warrington, early on. Good tactics from Leigh Wood. Another right hook almost landed there.
Two men locking horns on the inside. Leigh Wood has characterised Josh Warrington as a dirty fighter, said that he leads with his head, that he's reckless with his noggin. But referee Kevin Parker separating the two, and now there's a clinch which sees the men test the tension of the strands just above our commentary position. Now the action is back in the middle of the boxing ring, and the decibel level dialed up to maximum. The Leeds United fans to our right, the Nottingham Forest fans to our left. We are right here on the ring apron at a Motor Point arena that is filled to capacity. It's Leigh Wood feinting behind a right jab, 10-second clapper, barely audible here in this absolute cacophony in front of this capacity crowd. Leigh Wood feinting over the front foot, comes forward with a leaping right hook to conclude the opening round.
Tense and smart, and some really good shots nearly landed. Josh Warrington looks a little bit too fired up for my liking. Leigh Wood looks relaxed. Josh's corner, we just got a note there from Stacey, screaming at Josh to move to his left, move away. But if he does that, he's moving on to the southpaw right hook, in all fairness, Richie.
Yeah, he's got to watch what he's doing when he's moving to his left. What they're probably trying to get him to do there is to move to the left. They're trying to bring Leigh Wood maybe onto Josh Warrington's right hand, but he's a little bit too far away. So his problems is he's got to get close without getting caught with that hook. So he needs plenty of
his way in.
Yes, plenty of head movement, Steve, and he's got to work his way in. But I thought that was a good round for Leigh Wood. It was a clever round.
It was a smart round. I like the idea he was loose, fluid, and some of those shots, one or two of those big shots, they only just miss, Ronald. They might start landing soon.
Both of these men have lost to Anthony Kakachi. That was Leigh Wood's last outing back in May of last year. Ben Davis in his cornerman, calling an end to that contest, throwing in the towel. He hasn't been back in the ring since. He's had injury difficulties. He's resuming this second round as a southpaw, operating behind low-held hands, and he's scoring smartly with raiding attacks before disengaging to avoid the counter from the Leeds Warrior. The Leeds Warrior being implored to come forward by his corner, just to the right of our commentary position, but he's adopting a circumspect posture, is Josh Warrington, circling clockwise to his left and half moving backwards as he takes a thrusting southpaw left to the body, followed by a left cross to the sternum as Leigh Wood continues to operate as a southpaw. Good left hook to the body, right hook upstairs from Leigh Wood, and then he scores with a left cross to the body once again. There's a trickle of blood from his right nostril, but Leigh Wood boxing very smartly indeed in the first 50 seconds. Heads come together violently as the two men lock horns on the inside.
Rare moment there where Leigh Wood just made a mistake coming forward and actually walks onto the shot from Warrington. Well, Warrington, as I say, he's boxing sort of on the outside now, and he's waiting. He's trying to lure Leigh Wood in. That's what he's doing there. He wants Leigh Wood to come forward. So that may be the ploy now he wants to do here, Ronald.
Leigh Wood scoring effectively with a left hook to the body and a right hook to the head before disengaging once again, and that blood from his right nostril beginning to be smeared over the right side of his face as he scores with a lead southpaw right hook, followed by a thrusting left cross, roundhouse left, lands out of the southpaw stance, then a touching left cross to the body, and Leigh Wood picking his punches and pot-shotting beautifully here through the halfway stage of this second round.
Yes, he's working very well on the outside, is Leigh Wood. He's sort of slowed the pace down as well. Warrington is waiting probably a little bit too long here, and he's got to use his jab a little bit more. He's just waiting for the one single shot, and it's not happening. Leigh Wood's got his hands very, very relaxed and low, staying on the outside. Boxing a sensible, clever contest, Leigh Wood.
Leigh Wood, the power puncher, 17 of his 28 victories coming via the short route for a 60% KO ratio. But he is boxing smartly here now, playing the pot-shotting punch picker. Beautiful left uppercut, right hook with his back near the ropes on the far side of the ring before spinning off to centre ring. And when he spun off, he disengaged and left Josh Warrington chasing shadows. Very clever boxing as he smeared the blood across his face on that right nostril, and wiping it does. Leigh Wood takes a stiff right hand from Josh Warrington, but only 8 victories inside the distance in his 32 for a far more modest 25% KO ratio. But the former 2-time IBF champion, who just takes a southpaw left just above his belt line once again, a volume, incessant pressure fighter at his best. Here he's trying to pick his spots, but Leigh Wood piling up the points in the meantime. There's the 10-second clapper, closing stages of the second round as Josh Warrington just evades a left cross that was flicked out by Leigh Wood, who has boxed exclusively southpaw and has done so very smartly indeed.
And seems comfortable that way. I think Josh needs to just throw a few more shots. Not worry about landing a big left hook as Leigh Wood moves away. Not worrying about trying to catch him with a right because he comes in. Just a couple of jabs, feel them out, because Leigh Wood at the moment has got the pattern. Elusive, quick shots, move.
Yeah, it depends on which boxer makes the opponent come over the front foot, because that's what they're both trying to do. They're both trying to get each other to come forward and bring them onto shots. But Leigh Wood's doing it a little bit better than Warrington, because Warrington's not throwing many punches, so there's not many feints. He's waiting a little bit too long, and Leigh Wood's not falling into the trap. It's Warrington that seems to be coming forward and walks onto the odd shot here and there, Steve.
He's certainly fighting Warrington like he believes he can stop Leigh Wood. That's the way he's fighting. It's like he knows, he believes, he truly believes he can stop him.
So moving to the third round, Josh Warrington out of his red corner in his orthodox stance, clamping his gloves to the sides of his temples in complete contrast. Leigh Wood, a southpaw boxer, with his hands contemptuously down by his kneecaps. He's out of range when he's adopting this low-held guard, but he just closed the gap and landed with a flicking left cross before altogether dialing up the power to land with an altogether more potent left hand, and then a beautiful left-hand bolo shot to the body of the advancing Josh Warrington. Josh Warrington then wrapped up in a clinch by Leigh Wood, who had to be separated by the referee Kevin Parker.
You see, at the moment, Warrington's feet are a little bit too slow, and that's just allowing Wood just to adjust. And now it's the left uppercut that's a problem for Josh Warrington. There it is there, look. Right on cue, left uppercut from Leigh Wood.
Beautiful southpaw left uppercut turned underneath, almost lifted the front foot of Josh Warrington off the ring canvas, and then a left hand dug into the body, but the referee Kevin Parker saying that it was low, below the belt line of the Leeds Warrior. Sporting touch of gloves between these two bitter rivals as the action resumes, and then after the touch of gloves it was a left cross, then a roundhouse left out of the southpaw stance, and this is terrific pot-shotting being demonstrated by Leigh Wood. He's expanding and contracting the distance on his own terms, but then having taken a two-shot combination, Josh Warrington quickening up the tempo and drive Leigh Wood to the ropes on the far side of the ring, and he's looking to let leather go and land wherever it may fall.
Better from Josh Warrington. He sensed it himself that he's got to up the pace, he's got to go through the gears. It was too slow, his feet were too slow, and he was getting caught. It was too easy for Leigh Wood. So what does he do? He steps on the gas a little bit, doubles up the attack, sustains the pressure, and has had some success there.
He most certainly did as we go beyond the halfway stage of this third round, and the decibel level being dialed up once again, and it's the Leeds fans to the right of our commentary position here on 5 Live. Encouraging Josh Warrington. What a counter right hook off the back foot to end that combination from Leigh Wood. There he scored with the same shot once again after he had success touching down to the body, but now quickening his feet and pursuing his man is Josh Warrington, but he finds Leigh Wood ghosting away counterclockwise to his right after he was near the neutral corner on this near side of the ring. Very smart boxing indeed from Leigh Wood, who scored with a piercing left cross between the high-held gloves of Josh Warrington once again.
Well, we've seen the danger there, didn't we, from Leigh Wood, especially with that lead right hook. He slows Warrington down with a couple of good left uppercuts, and again, and then he brings him onto that right hook, Ronald.
Terrific work from Leigh Wood, but then Josh Warrington gets his own get back with a good left jab. There's a counter right jab in response from Leigh Wood. Beautiful three-shot combination, ending with a half hook, half uppercut from the southpaw backhand of Leigh Wood. The corner have done a good job stemming that flow of blood as he lands with a good left hook of the Czech variety, spinning off the line. And Leigh Wood boxing very impressively indeed. Hands down, relaxed, composed, controlling his emotions well. We're going to go over to the blue corner and listening to the instructions of Ben Davison, the head coach of Leigh Wood.
You nailed him there, he's coming, Johnny. You're pissing around.
There you go. Again, can't see it enough. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to
Basic message there was, how do you feel? He said good. And then they said, I'll paraphrase, you're breezing the rounds, okay? You're breezing the rounds. And I kind of agree with them.
Yeah,
Tense, but I think he's just winning them comfortably.
He's controlling the pace superbly well, is Leigh Wood. Not by going forward. Sometimes he'll step back, Steve, and just bring his opponent onto the shots and picks his punches really, really well. It's a clever display.
Hit and move. Loving this so far, loving the tension in the arena.
As we move into round 4, good right hand to the body from Josh Warrington, but only after he was touched up twice to the body by Leigh Wood, and then a good right hand over the top from Josh Warrington, followed by a jolting half jab, half hook. Josh Warrington with a bright start to this round, looking to send a message to Leigh Wood that he is still very much a live contender in this non-title contest. But now Leigh Wood looking to re-establish the control that he exhibited of the tempo and the distance by feinting over his front foot, comes forward behind a jab from his belt line, followed by a left cross, didn't quite find the range, but they kept Warrington occupied and backed him up towards the ropes on the far side of the ring near the blue corner.
I think Warrington's got to take a few risks here, Ronald. The pace again has dropped and it's suiting Leigh Wood. We've seen in the last round when Warrington actually upped the pace and went for it. He had a bit of success, as he did just then. At times he's a little bit too slow and that's suiting Wood, so he's got to sustain a bit more pressure, move the head as he's going forward and double up the attacks more.
Nice check right hand from Leigh Wood out of that southpaw stance, spinning off the line counterclockwise to his right as he ran Josh Warrington onto it. Josh Warrington dipping at the knees, bobbing, weaving, and as he sprung into range, he caught Leigh Wood with a left hand that landed with the crook of his elbow. No complaints from Leigh Wood, as Ricky Hatton, the late great Ricky Hatton, International Boxing Hall of Famer, was fond of saying, this isn't tiddlywinks, and his physical and the right nostril of Leigh Wood has began to leak once again, perhaps from the crook of the elbow that was landed by Josh Warrington. The two men in the middle of the boxing ring, completely contrasting styles and approaches. Josh Warrington, hands held high, bobbing and weaving. Leigh Wood continuing to have his hands down by his belt line, looking to peck and poke with flicking scoring punches.
Yeah, the hands are down by the belt because that's the trap that he sets. So he wants Warrington to come forward, and this is Warrington coming forward, and he catches him with the left hook. That's what he's got to do more of, Ronald. Get on that front foot and take a few risks.
It was a beautiful left hook that caught Leigh Wood on what is an unprotected chin because of the posture that he's adopting. On occasion he tries to half tuck it behind his shoulder, but the lead left hook from Warrington landed flush. Wood took it well, and now he's back on the perimeter of the boxing ring, hands down by his side, just circling clockwise to his left, evades the 1-2 combination from Josh Warrington, but Josh Warrington is trying to steadily dial up the pressure after increasing it as though he flicked a switch in the previous round.
Got to use his jab a little bit more, Josh Warrington. He did earlier on in the round, just to measure the distance and gap and just to keep Leigh Wood occupied with something, because at the moment he's throwing nothing, so it's quite easy for Leigh Wood because he's just picking his shots. Again, we need to see a tempo change, got to go through the gears. Josh Warrington
trying to do that, but he's finding Leigh Wood an elusive target. Oh, what a counter! Left uppercut out of the southpaw stance, and as the two men fell into a clinch, Leigh Wood celebrated it by pumping his southpaw right fist, but he caught the advancing former two-time IBF champion Leigh Wood with a peach of a left uppercut out of that southpaw stance.
And he knew it. Josh Warrington instantly claimed. Leigh smiled, did that little fist pump. This fight is still poised. It's just that Josh can't seem to find a way, Rich, to break down that fluid movement. What should he do? You're in the corner. What are you telling Josh Warrington?
I tell him, look, Steve, he's got to take a few more risks in that he's got to apply more pressure. When the feet are too slow, it's easy for Wood. He's just boxing around him, hands low, setting traps and just picking his shots. He's got to put more pressure on, lots of head movements, double up his jab, fast feet in, and let the shots go. What he's also got to do, Steve, he's got to back Leigh Wood up onto the ropes and make his feet come square. Then it's a different contest, but Leigh Wood is clever.
4 completed rounds, Rich. Who looks fresher to you?
Oh, Leigh Wood, he looks like a totally different fighter for me, Stevie. He's comfortable at this stage for me.
And that's what happens when you're winning rounds. You look comfortable.
Yeah.
So we move into the 5th round as the pattern resumes that has been established in the first 4. Leigh Wood exclusively boxing as a southpaw. Now he's on the front foot, trying to back Josh Warrington to the blue corner on the far side of the ring. Walking forward behind a left cross, Josh Warrington just circling to his left, trying to keep his foot on the outside of the lead right foot of Leigh Wood. But Leigh Wood, so calm, so composed, turns under a beautiful left uppercut to the sternum of Josh Warrington that landed in between his attempted forearm defences.
See, the tactic there from Warrington is to keep his left foot, as you said, Ronald. Good work there from Leigh Wood there.
Beautiful long left hook out of the southpaw stance, and he seemed to stop Warrington in his tracks. He's keeping a good poker face. He's touched down to the body. Leigh Wood with real variety in his work, trying to bring down the hands of the lead warrior to render that chin an open target, and he is boxing very smartly indeed as Josh Warrington comes back with a beautiful right hand of his own, but Leigh Wood keeping his composure as he spins off the line clockwise to his left. Josh Warrington lands with another good straight shot.
Yeah, a couple of good shots. So Warrington keeping his left foot on the outside, trying to bring Leigh Wood onto that right hand, and he threw it there. Because I was going to say he's got to start throwing more right hands if he's doing that with the feet, because you're bringing the southpaw onto those shots. But that was good there from Leigh Wood.
It most certainly was. Lead southpaw right uppercut followed by a left hook out of the port-sided stance, catching Warrington flush. Remember, Leigh Wood carries such fight-ending power that he carries late. Left hand over the top from Warrington, countered by a hard left hook to the body into the solar plexus from Leigh Wood. The right nostril leaking once again, reddening the right side of his face as he lands with another good left hand to the body. Warrington just on the edge of range. The two men on the logo at centre ring, scoring left jab from Warrington, who is feinting over that front foot, dipping his knees. Thrusting left cross from Leigh Wood was inaccurate, but he followed it up, and his second one was altogether more precise.
I think Leigh Wood here, he's boxing very well on the outside. He doesn't want to get too complacent though, because you can see him just edging forward, and that's when he could walk onto a right hand. So Josh Warrington is still in this, but he's got to let that right hand go and try and bring Leigh Wood onto that shot. And Leigh Wood's getting more and more confident, so who knows at this stage, Ron.
The right nostril of Leigh Wood damaged as Josh Warrington surges forward and is also swelling beneath and around the right eye of Leigh Wood, which could well have been caused by a clash of heads. They're over in the blue corner on the far side of the ring. The heads bouncing together like billiard balls. Referee Kevin Parker separates the two. Both men landing backhands as Josh Warrington looking to pin Leigh Wood to the ropes right next to the red corner on this near side of the ring. Leigh Wood then catapults himself off the strands, wraps up Josh Warrington to conclude that round.
You could argue that Josh Warrington's getting closer. You could argue that he's starting to maybe make Leigh Wood, or threaten to make Leigh Wood make mistakes. But I think you might be stretching things if you made those two arguments, Rich, because I'm not sure either of those two statements is true. Yeah. Although I'm sure Josh would have hoped they would be true now by the end of the 5th.
Well, he's probably hoping that Leigh Wood's going to start slowing down and slowing the feet, and probably get him to hold his feet a little bit more, because he might have a chance to land some more shots. But he's neglecting his jab here, Josh Warrington. He's got to use that better, Steve, to measure that distance and launch the attacks then with the right hand. But what he's got to do also is occasionally try and bring Leigh Wood onto a shot. Why go chasing all the time?
Hasn't done that once yet.
He hasn't done it once.
How about this, Rich? When he is struggling to get close, what about if he just thought about throwing a body shot?
Absolutely.
So we've gone 5 completed rounds with I don't believe in stats and computers, people that can tell you what's landed. I haven't seen a body shot yet, Ronald. Keep your eyes open for one in this round, would you please?
Indeed, we're moving into the 6th round. After these men fought each other some 2.5 years ago in October of 2023, wasn't an immediate rematch, but both men fought against Anthony Kakachi, who's got a date coming up at the 3 Arena in Dublin against Jazza Dickens for a WBA title. Both of those men lost that contest. Leigh Wood, that was his last outing in a boxing ring. Josh Warrington has had a confidence-building victory since that time, but the right eye of Leigh Wood continuing to redden and perhaps swell before our very eyes. But this going against the pre-fight consensus that most people thought we were going to see. We thought in many respects we were going to see round 8 and onwards of their first encounter, when Josh Warrington was the man with the volume, the man with the boxing skill, and Leigh Wood would have to come from behind. But so far, with a minute gone in this 6th round, it is Leigh Wood controlling the tempo, the distance and the terms of this contest.
Yeah, he's slowed things down again, hasn't he, Leigh Wood? And again, Josh Warrington, there's not a lot of movement from him. He's got flat feet. When Leigh Wood goes to the body with that left hand, as he just did there, that's when Warrington has got to throw the right hand. When Leigh Wood goes downstairs, just throw that right hand out. That's what Warrington's got to do more of, Ronald.
So approaching the halfway stage of this 6th round, and it's Leigh Wood on the edge of ring centre, just was creeping forwards, then elected to hold his feet, and again his hands down by his belt line, almost resting on his quads, in complete contrast as a left hook gets around the corner of Warrington's glove. It is Josh Warrington who just having difficulty finding his range, because the movements of Leigh Wood aren't expansive, they aren't overly expressive, but little half steps forward, half steps to the side, circling around his man is making it very difficult for Josh Warrington to get any sustained offense off in a consistent fashion.
Yeah, occasionally you see they come together, and Warrington hasn't thrown hardly anything on the inside. He's got to do a little bit better, because at the end of the day, Leigh Wood's got a very relaxed guard, and he's really relaxed even when they're up close. So there's chances there for Warrington to land shots on the inside, but he's not taking them. And again, Leigh Wood lands a couple of good shots and keeps at bay again with those punches.
Right uppercut and left hook getting through out of the southpaw stance from Leigh Wood, who's just near the ropes on the far side of the ring. Lead left uppercut followed by a right hook. An absolutely exquisite combination from the former 2-time WBA featherweight champion of the world. Boxing beautifully here up at Super Feather. He told Steve Bunce in the week about the difficulties of making the featherweight limit. That was also the case for Josh Warrington. Here they are up at Super Feather, and they are boxing very well indeed at 9 stone 4 pounds. But it's Josh Warrington who is finding himself trailing surely with 6 rounds completed. We're going to head into the red corner and listen to the father and trainer of Josh Warrington. Here's Sean O'Hagan.
Walk him down, get that side. Where's that number go? Walk it out, come on. He'll tire, you keep pressing. With your defense in place, he'll tire. Yeah? Gotta fucking let him roll.
So apologies if some of that language maybe offended you. It's industrial, it's boxing, it's late at night and there's a lot at stake. Keep the pressure, you will wear him down.
Yeah, I get it, what he's saying, and he's right what he is saying, but he's got to be a little bit more dynamic with that, Steve.
Absolutely.
He's got to move his head a lot more forward. Yeah, and he's got to double up his attacks, and he's got to throw more punches. The pace, Steve, is suiting Leigh Wood down to the ground.
Absolutely. I didn't think we'd get to round 7 with it being one-sided like this, Ronald. I did not. I'm afraid I did not.
We move into the second half of a contest that is scheduled for 12. 6 rounds completed, a potential 6 rounds to go, and a cracking left cross from around his kneecap lands twice in quick succession for Leigh Wood, who is measuring his man beautifully. And despite his best efforts, Josh Warrington has struggled to establish a rhythm here tonight, and that is because the dance and the direction is being controlled by Leigh Wood. Beautiful roundhouse left out of the southpaw stance, followed by a right hand which was a little less accurate before the 2 men fall into a clinch in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, it's an all or nothing situation now, I think, for Josh Warrington, and he's just got to hope that, like I say, complacency may creep in, because at the moment Leigh Wood is boxing the perfect fight. But as they come forward again, as they clash rather, and come together, the hands are very low, so the opportunities are there for Warrington, but he's failing to take them, Ronald. He's not throwing as they both connect and both come together.
Minute gone in this 7th round, and for all of the... Oh, there's an attempted left hook from Josh Warrington, but it was evaded by backpedaling by Leigh Wood. Leigh Wood then takes a stiff left jab after he had success with a backhand downstairs. But for all of the bad blood that characterised their first encounter, this second contest is being fought in a remarkable spirit, because on multiple occasions we've seen the boxers exchange sporting touches of gloves And that is in complete contrast to what happened in the build-up to the first fight, during the first fight, as a left uppercut, right hook attempted by Leigh Wood, who is showing such dynamism and energy in his legs as both men have success with backhands.
I think, though, Ronald, Leigh Wood's got to also watch what he's doing, because at times it looks a little bit too easy for him, and that's when he could maybe walk onto a shot. But Josh Warrington keeps making a classic mistake, launching the attack from too far out, then his back leg comes round, and all of a sudden he finds himself square on. That's when he's open to the uppercut and the right hook, and he's walked onto both those shots tonight.
There was a good left hand to the body from Leigh Wood, countered by a left hook to the jaw from Josh Warrington. The two men exchanging jabs, a thrusting left from Josh Warrington, a flicking right from Leigh Wood, who's continuing to operate with his hands down by his side, completely relaxed. But that's a beautiful overhand right from Josh Warrington, catching the unprotected chin of Leigh Wood, followed by a sharp left jab, and then a left-right success for Josh Warrington. But remember, he is not known as a puncher. His successes all came from volume. Beautiful left hand in between the gloves scores from Leigh Wood. And remember, was that volume and intensity ever more better characterized than when he beat Carl Frampton in Leeds? We were all ringside that night as another left hook scores from Josh Warrington just before the sound of the 10-second clapper. Josh Warrington beginning to find his range at mid-range in the closing stages of this 7th round. But was that enough to negate the good work done by Leigh Wood before?
I'm not sure it was enough to negate the good work, and I think I would probably still give Leigh Wood that round. But there was definitely a slight shift there. Several times he was backed up, Warrington backed up Wood. Several times he caught him, and several times it looked to me like Leigh Wood didn't like it, took a breather or held, Richie.
No, that's right. The only problem there for Warrington is he landed a couple of good shots, but then he stepped back. What he should have done is he should have got straight on the bike and on that front foot and sustained the pressure a little bit more. They were just single shots. They definitely caught Wood flush, but he just let him off the hook, Steve, and let him go back on the outside and control the basic pace and rhythm again.
6 feet from us, Josh Warrington's corner looks really calm. I'm looking over at Leigh Wood's corner. Sure, it's calm enough, a bit frantic talking, but Leigh's gulping up air, Ronald. Gulping up air. 7 rounds in, just after I said it was a one-way traffic. Oh, the kiss of death for this fight.
We move into round number 8. Both of these men experienced campaigners over the championship distance, and it's Leigh Wood out to the middle of the boxing ring. Leigh Wood took in a big gulp of oxygen. Josh Warrington cleared his nostril and his mouth by spitting onto the canvas of the boxing ring. And it's Leigh Wood just seeking to peck and poke and flick with that lead right hand once again. There's plenty of feinting coming from Leigh Wood to keep his man guessing. There was an attempted change of angles from Josh Warrington, and he attempted to do so again by shifting like a character from the Matrix from his left to his right. He was just touched by a 2-shot combination from Leigh Wood, as the two men just trying to think and work their way into range. And now the verbals begin, as Leigh Wood running his mouth in the direction of Josh Warrington. Josh Warrington trying to score with the right hand to the body, missed on the first occasion, quickened his feet, closed the gap, and scored with the right cross to the body on the second time.
And as they come together, you see there, Josh Warrington again just guilty of not throwing shots on the inside. He has the odd chance here and there, but he's not throwing the punches that he should. He's launching from too far out, and when he gets there, he's not working on the inside, trying to move the head side to side as he's coming forward. So he's trying to avoid shots, but he's got to throw more punches, Ronald. He's got to double up those attacks.
Good left hand to the body just above the belt line, as Leigh Wood takes an opportunity to just clear his mouth and his gum shield and spit onto the canvas of the boxing ring. As Josh Warrington trying to quicken his feet, but as he tried to bob and weave his way inside, he was picked off by a southpaw right hook from Josh Warrington by Leigh Wood, right near the red corner on this near side of the ring. And now both sets of football fans, the Leeds Warriors on the right hand side, the Nottingham Forest Trent End Massive on our left hand side, each of them trying to rouse their man, because this contest taking on a bit of an attritional quality now. The two men coming together more frequently. It's Josh Warrington trying to quicken the tempo. Lead right hand with a scoring shot out of the orthodox stance from Warrington. Counter right hook followed by 2 left crosses to the body from Leigh Wood, but Josh Warrington answers with a left hook of his own. Action near the neutral corner on the far side of the ring.
Well, there's more chance of Josh Warrington landing shots when they're coming together, and he's up in the pace, so that's a little bit better. He gets caught with a couple, but he lands also a couple. What's happening when he's on the outside and he's just slowing it down, Leigh Wood? He's the one that's in control and picking Josh Warrington off. So Warrington has got to up the pace, Ronald. We keep saying it, and occasionally you see glimpses of him doing it, but he's so worried about getting caught with that right hook. He won't walk. He's not going to walk onto that shot, but I think that's on his mind.
There's some swelling and reddening around the right eye of Josh Warrington. The right eye of Leigh Wood has been angry for some time, but the corner have done a good job with the end swell iron to keep the swelling down. That cold compress that they will use to push away the contusion, quite literally. Left hook attempted by Josh Warrington near his own red corner, countered by a right hand over the top from Leigh Wood.
Again, another more competitive round. Still feel that Leigh Wood's winning though. You've got to be really careful in fights like this, where you do a mercy vote, where one round's close enough that you give it away because you've given it the first six. How have you got it at this point, Rich?
I think I've only got Warrington by... I've only given him one round, Steve.
Yeah, about right. It's about 7-1, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And one might have been even.
Yeah.
I've only given him one round.
And it's not like Leigh Wood's punishing him or dominating him in the strictest sense of the word of domination, but you've used the word all along. He's controlling it. And that's the crucial element here, Rich, is the control Leigh Wood's got.
He's controlling the pace and he's controlling his ring movement and ring craft very well. He's rarely on the ropes because he knows that's where he's more vulnerable, so he's boxing in ring space. And Warrington has failed then to push him back and sustain the pressure. So yes, Leigh Wood has controlled things very well for me.
You still wouldn't want to take your eyes off it for very long though, would you? Let's tell the truth.
Indeed, as we move into the 9th round, Leigh Wood out atop the logo in the middle of the boxing ring, and he's scoring with flicking shots, cracking them out like a whiplash to catch Josh Warrington. Josh Warrington not too far away with a single shot, and there's an altogether more authoritative left hand from Josh Warrington, who's now doing a better job of trying to give his man angles and keep his lead left foot on the outside of Leigh Wood's southpaw right. Good portion of the round for Josh Warrington. Wood tries to reassert control, but then left hand success to the body from Josh Warrington, who's just trying to blade his stance, turn sideways. Imagine turning a kitchen knife sideways. It goes from being a full-on flat surface to an altogether side-on narrower surface. Then there's two solid left jabs landed by Josh Warrington, who is having real success in the first minute of this 9th round with that lead left hand.
Yeah, a couple of good examples here of what Warrington should be doing, because he scored with a couple of good jabs, but the single attack is probably not enough, and it just allows then Wood to recover. That's why he's got to double up the attack, go in with that jab, a slight pause or a sidestep, and then go again and put Wood under more pressure. Better work from Warrington, but he's got to do more of it.
Remember, in 12-round contest, championship contest, no belt on the line tonight, but boxers can sometimes take a breather. But there's another 2 ramrod left jabs in quick succession for Josh Warrington. Is Leigh Wood just beginning to slow down? Is it of his own volition? Is it of his own volition, or is he beginning to feel the pace and having to slow down with the memory of the 12-round distance in his mind?
Well, better work from Warrington, most certainly, with those single shots. Wood staying on the outside, yes, he's got a bloodied nose, and it may appear that he's just feeling the pace a little bit. But this can happen in 12-round contests, Ronald, where you have a round off here and there. And that's what's certainly happening here, I think, from Leigh Wood. But let's give Warrington credit here. He's caught him with some good jab single shots. I just want to see more of them.
There was another touch of gloves after the two men came together just a few moments ago. Left cross attempted by Leigh Wood, followed by a right hand, and now he's up on his toes. He's bothered by a right nostril that's bleeding once again, breathing through a mouth that's open. He's continuing to feint and looking busy, but we have to be careful that we don't mistake motion for action, and the accuracy of Leigh Wood just appearing to decrease and dissipate through the closing stages of this 9th round.
Yeah, and Leigh Wood's got to watch what he's doing here, because he's probably relaxing a little bit too much. So Warrington's just got to keep switched on and just let the right hand go. But as I say, that was a terrific left uppercut again from Leigh Wood.
So Leigh Wood initiates a clinch, walks Josh Warrington across the middle of the boxing ring towards the neutral corner on the near side of the ring. The two men exchanging lead hooks, and back to both their corners at the end of that 9th round.
Both tired, both weary, but both know that they can win this fight clearly with a good couple of rounds. That's Josh's only way to win this fight, I believe, is to win comfortably the remaining 3 rounds and maybe get a stop, maybe get a knockdown. Because, you know, people do Mercy scoring. So we I think have got this like 8-1 or 9-0.
Yeah.
It may be tighter.
Yeah, it might be tighter, but Leigh Wood, they're just showing signs, maybe just switching off here and there. It was better from Warrington, most certainly. A couple of good single shots, a couple of great jabs, and hopefully that'll give him an encouragement. But I hope his corner is saying, listen, after that single jab, then you've got to go at him again and force more, and force the pace a little bit more, because he certainly had a better round, that one, did Josh Warrington.
A better round, was it good enough to win? I don't know.
Don't know.
Absolutely don't know. So, but that's the third round time we've said that, Rich, so far.
Indeed, Steve Bunce alluding to the phenomenon of Mercy scoring. The late, great Marvin Hagler told me personally, and has told many boxers and boxing journalists, that is what he felt got the better of him in his last contest against Sugar Ray Leonard, because Sugar Ray did better than many people expected he would. He said that's why they gave him the rounds, and that's why Sugar Ray ascended to the undisputed middleweight championship of the world that night. There's a thrusting left jab scored by Josh Warrington as Leigh Wood continuing to try to maintain a poker expression, but his work has become a little more ragged over the last couple of rounds, less accurate, less sharp, and he's just trying to give that impression that he is still the man in control. But Josh Warrington is coming as he scores with a lead left hook, backing Warrington towards the far side of the ring. Warrington back to ring centre and scores with the right left to the body.
Yeah, he's a little bit too relaxed for my liking here, Leigh Wood. He's tired a little bit, you can certainly see that. Josh Warrington's got to pick up on this, and he's got to step on the gas a little bit more. He risks walking onto the shots, that's his problem. That's why he needs head movement and a high guard. But if he forces the pace, Leigh Wood again, very, very low hands, and he's vulnerable when they get up close. So for me, Warrington's got to throw more shots as they come together, Ronald.
Approaching the halfway stage of this 10th round, oftentimes rematches less intense than the first encounter, because each man knows what is in store, having shared the boxing ring. That's a beautiful right uppercut out of the southpaw stance. Walking into it was Leigh Wood, and now he's altogether sharper, having enjoyed that success. Had he been encouraged and energized by that, because he's a little quicker on his feet, his feints are more convincing, and he's just kept Josh Warrington at bay as he attempted to come forward. Then an attempted left hook from Leigh Wood was caught by the right glove of Josh Warrington.
And again, Leigh Wood is just controlling things in terms of the pace, and when they come together, he cleverly just grabs Josh Warrington and doesn't allow him to work on the inside. Look, there's another example there, as Warrington, as they come together, then Leigh Wood just ties him up a little bit. His guard's all over the place up close, and he's vulnerable, Leigh Wood. That's why he closes things down in terms of just holding him, and it's a bit messy on the inside, but nothing's really getting home from Warrington.
Well, it was a real elixir, that uppercut success for Leigh Wood, because in the passage of the round that followed, he was altogether sharper and more dynamic, and his reflexes seemed to be back to where they were in the early stage of the fight. Now he's feinting once again, measuring his man with straight shots. He was inaccurate, but then a bull rush forwards from Josh Warrington sees Leigh Wood tie him up on the far side of the ring once more. Referee Mark Bates separates the two, and he's back to the space of centre ring. Right hand over the top from Warrington. He's countered by a left uppercut to the solar plexus from Leigh Wood, who's continuing to feint, and those feints are keeping Josh Warrington guessing. He lands with a good right hook to end the round.
There's a nasty couple of punches exchanged from both of them at the end of that round. Both tired men here. Both men here could be finished by a flurry or a clean shot. They could both walk onto a shot. They've got that kind of weariness about them. And what they're suddenly starting to look, Rich, is 37 and 35.
Yeah, you're right. I think Warrington, he took a lot of shots, hasn't he, Warrington? But he just can't sense, or he can't just muster up the energy just to push on a little bit, because Leigh Wood looks absolutely exhausted.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's on the outside, he's done a lot of running, hasn't he, Leigh Wood, but he looks tired now, and I think Warrington should pick up on that, but it's easier said than done, Steve.
Yeah, I'm looking up at Warrington's corner. There's still no panic in there. No. Josh is talking to them, which generally means that he's fine, or he's got something wrong with him. Seems to be fine. Sean's giving him some stick, laughing. Josh is actually laughing back. So that's a happy corner. That's a dangerous corner, Ronald.
Into the championship rounds we go, and again, the championship distance holds no fears for both of these men, but at 37 years of age for Leigh Wood and 35 for Josh Warrington, Not suggesting that they've been boxing with the handbrake on, but they've been managing their energy levels very well indeed. And now Josh Warrington trying to get busy, bobbing and weaving, bending at the knees in front of his man. And as he sprung forward and tried to close the gap, he was walked onto a lead right uppercut. Referee Mark Bates had to separate the two, and there's a good left hand to the body once again. And there's just a little bit of a ragged look about the movement and work of Leigh Wood now, almost like a puppet on strings as he gets into range and out of range, as another sporting touch of gloves after a potential low blow on the inside.
Like I said earlier on, I think Josh Warrington has taken a lot of shots as he's been coming forward, but Leigh Wood is tiring by the second for me. He's too relaxed, and on the inside again, he's wide open. It's just that Josh Warrington just can't find the quality shot on the inside, and that's been quite disappointing. He's allowed Leigh Wood there to land a couple of body shots with no real reply, and again, that's disappointing for me.
It's not as though Josh Warrington is stuck in mud, but he hasn't been able to launch the sustained volleys that we associate with him so readily when he was at his rampaging pomp as a two-time featherweight champion of the world. Remember, this is up at super featherweight, and again, in these lower weight divisions, it's not like heavyweights who can box well into their 40s, as evidenced by Big George Foreman and Vladimir Klitschko. The speed and the energy is far more vital in the lower weight divisions, and these two men not boxing with the type of verve and vigor that we associate with them at their prime, but perhaps they're beyond their prime at similar points, and that is why it's producing a compelling contest.
Leigh Wood again just switching off there, and Warrington almost landed that right hand. The crowd are starting to raise their voices now. I think that actually the Leeds fans, so they're trying to raise the spirits of Josh Warrington. But look at the movement from Leigh Wood. He's circular, he's boxing from ring space, centre of the ring. He's been very clever with his movement tonight as Leigh Wood.
There was an uppercut.
Rarely gets back on the ropes.
There was an uppercut hook success from Leigh Wood, and again it just spurred him into action because his movements immediately afterwards were razor sharp as he got up on his toes and was able to move laterally left and right. He's currently dominating centre ring, fires out a lead left uppercut to try and catch advancing Josh Warrington. The head's rubbing vigorously on the inside. Referee Mark Bates separating the two men, and now closing seconds of this penultimate round, and it's Leigh Wood again atop a wide-legged stance atop the logo at ring centre, who's just giving the impression that he is dictating the terms of this non-title contest that will go into the 12th round.
It'll go into the 12th round. I didn't expect it to go into the 12th round. I thought it was guaranteed to be a stoppage. I think these two know that they're, as you talked about, they're past their primes. They're both past their primes at the same time. They're absolutely equal. If you could measure such a thing as being past your prime, they'd both score an identical scoreline. You're nodding, Ronald, you know it, and you do as well, Richie.
Yeah, I think it's the type of performance from both of them that it wouldn't surprise me if they, no matter what happens, if they both retire tonight.
I think, Ronald, I picked up on the touching of gloves, Richie. That started about round 3 or 4. That round they laughed and exchanged smiles. They've touched gloves 1.5, 2 times each round. These are two absolute seasoned men who have nothing to be ashamed of. Both realising tonight that they haven't got it left. They haven't got it left. I didn't know beforehand. I've realised from about round 6.
Well, there was a sporting touch of gloves between the two as they bumped knuckles, as referee Mark Bates stood between them, and then after he disengaged to get the round underway, they touched gloves once again. We move into the 12th and final round, and surely Josh Warrington, the two-time IBF featherweight champion of the world, needs several knockdowns or more simply a knockout or stoppage if he hopes to gain his competitive revenge against a man who got the better of him with that controversial 7th round KO 2.5 years ago.
Yes, indeed. I was expecting all or nothing now from Josh Warrington, but I think he's been so concerned and so preoccupied of this walking onto that right hook again, then he hasn't come forward too many times, has he, with any real intent. It's only been these single attacks. Earlier on in the contest, a couple of sustained pressure attacks, but that's about it. And that's been the most surprising thing here. He needed to close the gap, he needed to force the pace, because it certainly showed that early on, Ron.
There's a good left cross right down the pipe from Leigh Wood. caught Josh Warrington, who's spun off the line to ride it a little bit and take some of the pop off it, but then there's a corkscrew left hand out of the southpaw stance once again, as Leigh Wood has operated strictly as a left-handed boxer out of the port-sided stance, leading with his right fist and his right foot, and Josh Warrington just hasn't been able to go through the gears and hit that overdrive that he did so readily, almost at will, as he rampaged his way to 2 stints as an IBF featherweight champion of the world. But the fans, each of them trying to rouse their man just beyond the halfway stage of this final round.
Yes, tremendous noise now from the crowd. They sense the victory, I think, for Leigh Wood. He's boxed very well indeed. This isn't over yet, but Josh Warrington, he's walking onto shots as he's going forward, but his feet again are a little bit too slow, and as they come together, Ronald, time and again, he just ties Josh Warrington up and he can't get the punch home.
Well, you have to say that Ben Davison and Leigh Wood have got the tactics spot on tonight. I don't doubt that Sean O'Hagan and Josh Warrington's corner would have drawn up a perfect game plan, but crucially, it is Leigh Wood that has been able to implement it, as Josh Warrington tried to get Leigh Wood on the ropes just above the red corner and work away to the body, but Leigh Wood tied him up, walked him across to the ropes at the far side of the ring, and now Leigh Wood looking to pot shot and pepper his man with shoe shine punches on the inside to his body. As Josh Warrington tried to close the gap, Leigh Wood wraps him up like a gift, putting his arms behind his back, and then there's the same move in evidence once again. Leigh Wood tying up the right hand of Josh Warrington, but Josh Warrington frees it and scores with a good right hook to the body and a right hook to the chin. That brings the level of support on the increase from the Leeds fans, and on the 10-second clapper is Josh Warrington trying to free his hands. He's frustrated and tied up by Leigh Wood once again. Josh Warrington frustratedly grins his gum shield. There's the bell to conclude the contest. The two men exchange and embrace, and now it's the sea of humanity in the boxing ring as the teams and coaching staffs of both men into the ring, exchanging respectful embraces and salutations with one another. But after 12 hard-fought 3-minute rounds of boxing, one suspects it is going to be a repeat victory for Leigh Wood to conclude this bitter rivalry against the Leeds warrior Josh Warrington. We await the scores of Victor Loughlin, Kieran McCann and Kevin Parker to determine the outcome of this one.
I think we know the scores, it's just a case of how wide it is. I think about the best you could do is a 9-3, maybe an 8-4. There were 3 or 4 rounds where we said that was a better round. Equally, if there was a couple of 12-0, a couple of shutouts, I wouldn't complain. You can't score rounds to someone because they've had a better round than they've had the round before, as Marvin Hagler so infamously said. I'm just looking at Carl Frampton's score there. He scored it 11-1. Tony Bellew scored it a little bit better, 10-2. Richie, how did you think you had it?
I think I had it 10-2 as well, Steve. I think I'll give Warrington just a couple of rounds, and one may have been even.
Sorry, Rich, just look at the two of them. This is over, this rivalry's over. There's no trilogy, Ronald. It's finished, it's dead and buried, and I think they may have buried it in about round 4 or 5 when they started touching. It's covert little signs that fighters have when you know, just little things you do. And I've watched it with these two here tonight, and I think it happened about round 4 or so, Rich.
Yeah, and we've seen glimpses in that last round of what Warrington should have been doing, because he went for it. He certainly had a better last round, but it was too little too late. So I think he was really concerned, Ronald, throughout the contest of walking onto that right hook again. That's all I can think about, because there were just single attacks all the time. There was no real sustained pressure, so he's obviously too concerned about walking onto big punches.
Indeed, and body language often so instructive. In the red corner just above our commentary position, that's the Josh Warrington corner, and there are resigned smiles and shakes of the head being exchanged between Warrington and his father and trainer Sean O'Hagan. Indeed.
Close to happy, Ronald.
And over in the red corner there are subdued celebrations. Leigh Wood has put the forest scarf around his neck. He's made his way over to Eddie Hearn and exchanged the dap. David Diamante has made his way into the boxing ring. He's in possession of the scores. All we need now is for him to make it official. But from our vantage point here ringside on 5 Live, we think it's going to be a commanding, if not comprehensive, victory for Leigh Wood. Sean O'Hagan, the father and trainer of Josh Warrington, had just looked out over the top rope and said to somebody over our shoulder, well, he uttered an expletive.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to wonder how you're going to get yourself out of that one, Ronald. Don't start quoting someone, then not quoting them. Stacey, I had no idea where Ronald was going with that. And he said An expletive. Thanks for that, Ronald.
Indeed. Well, both men are either side of the referee. We just await the official particulars from David Diamante. Both men giving it absolutely everything, but I think the fighters know, and Leigh Wood, joined by a family member up in the boxing ring, he can now enter daddy mode once again after being a warrior and in fight mode in the build-up to this contest.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we can get a nice round of applause for both of these warriors and the great moments that they've given us in the ring. After 12 rounds of action here in Nottingham, we go to the scorecards. Kevin Parker, 119-109. Victor Laughlin, 119-110. Kieran McCann, 117-111. All three for your winner by unanimous decision, lethal Leigh Wood.
Well, there's no surprise there. I think you've all alluded to the fact that the body language often tells a story. The body language of his long-term manager of Josh Warrington, Steve Woods, who sat right opposite on the other side of the ring, his father Sean O'Hagan in his corner. You could sense that, couldn't you? And that embrace at the end, Richie, said everything. And David Diamante there as well, mentioning what an incredible career and what they've given to the sport of boxing. You cannot quantify the nights that they have given to boxing neutrals, their passionate fans. They've given them one last incredible night, and they both deserve all the praise and to savour every second of this, which is likely, you do feel, to be the last time that we see these two in the ring.
Two fantastic careers, you know, two fantastic boxers, massive followings, been world champions, two-time world champions, both of them. There isn't a title between them that they haven't won. You know, British, Commonwealth, European and world. You know, they've been a pleasure to watch and to follow. And they've been great role models. So yeah, they both have good careers. But tonight, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if they both bow out here, because the way they both box there, I think they're both at the end of the road.
And Bunsey, something that ties these two and ties many boxers, this isn't just potential at the end of their careers and a journey they've been on. Their entire families are involved. Josh Warrington's dad has been in his corner, living and breathing every moment. We know that Aunt Sue, as she's known, Leigh Wood's auntie and manager, they live and breathe every moment of this, and this will be a really, really emotional, memorable night for every single member of both of these boxer teams and family members.
Hey, listen, you know, I can't remember ever doing a double retirement in the ring. Tonight might be my first. We might get a double retirement and we might get formal announcement. I think that's what we're going to get.
And to your point, Steve, Josh Warrington looking like a man who is just savouring all of this. He's looking out over the top rope. He's scanning the scene.
He's in tears
in this
now,
capacity
suddenly.
crowd, and he's burst into tears. He's been shorn of his gloves, and perhaps the realization that what has been the central part of his athletic life for so long, the sport of boxing, the big night, rising to the highs, giving it everything. Remember, he was a dental technician before he could go full-time and scale to the heights of a world title. Well, perhaps the Leeds Warrior is going to have to put his battling instincts to rest now and channel them in another direction. But what a servant of British boxing he has been, and we can say the exact same thing for Leigh Wood. Each of these men taking the hard road to the top, and perhaps they've extracted what was left of one another tonight in this second contest.
Richie, I really believe it's always a privilege to be ringside for any big moment, whether it's the debut, you know, a debutant having that very first experience of walking out as a professional boxer, whether it's the coming of age, that first title that they win, and that moment, everything they've sacrificed, you get to witness it. Tonight we're witnessing something else that's very, very special. And as Bunsey said, perhaps the end of two incredible careers at the same time. It really is a privilege to see this and to witness it and to feel it.
Yes, it is, and it's not as if, you know, that they're both boxed badly. I mean, I think they're both boxed well to here tonight, but the one's better. Obviously, Leigh Wood's boxed much better than Josh Warrington, but he doesn't look like a finish. They both don't look like finished, but my point is, Stace, mentally they look finished. When you've got mentally, I've been through that when I was 31 and I knew it was over. Physically I was probably okay, but mentally I'd had enough. And when you've gone mentally, then it is the end of the road. And I just thought tonight, the signs there mentally of both boxers, that they've come to the end of the road here. But yes, it's been a privilege to follow them because they have been great fighters. But I just hope and pray that they can see it themselves, because it's always the boxer sometimes who's the last person to realise when it's over.
And that realisation comes at different points for people, Richie. Josh thought he was at that point when he put his gloves down in the centre of the ring after the Kakachi fight, then realised, no, it's not. That burning desire to still get back in there is there. They both had enough desire and enough needle between each other to have perhaps, or what is likely, one last dance. But sometimes, Richie, and Ronald, we said this in the build-up, you don't actually realise that until you are in there.
Indeed. Both men have spoken about how they were absolutely flying during camp. Ben Davison called Leigh Wood the leader of his gym in terms of the professionalism that he brings and the excellence, as did Josh Warrington. But we're going to hand over to Steve Bunch, who's with the victor now.
Listen, I'm not sure whether to speak to Leigh or to your daughter. Who should I speak to? Who should I do the interview with, Leigh?
What questions do you want to ask?
No, not sensible ones. First of all, how was Daddy tonight?
Really good.
Is it hard to watch?
I'm very proud.
So are we. Leigh, Charlie should be doing this, but I wasn't sure if we'd get Josh as well. I know you've known Charlie a long time. It was close to a flawless performance. It was brilliant. You got a bit tired the last couple of rounds. You look a bit emotional, because you know what I'm going to be asking you in a second, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. I can't really answer you. I need to go away, digest it and talk to my team. If there's a great offer for the one place I wanted to fight, I'll probably consider it, or the right opponent. I don't know yet. What a fight to finish on if I did say that's my last one. But it's getting harder and harder to be away from my kids. They sacrifice as much as me, you know. But like I said, credit to Josh. What a tough guy. I didn't really expect it to go past 4 rounds. To get to over him when I'm thinking, God, I'm not laying in him with the shots I thought I would. Somehow getting through, but it is a tough guy, and credit to him.
And there seemed to be so much more respect between the two of them. From about round 4 or 5 on. Just incredible. And which was a real... I love to see that.
Yeah, I think round 8 when I thought, I've got you some big shots, and the band's off you, not like last time, the band's off you more. I thought, I'm going to give you some credit. Just going for this long in the fight, I'll call you some good shots, you know. I actually going for my thought, you're a lot tougher than I thought.
So what you're obviously talking about, you're referring to there, is if there was an offer to fight at Forest.
Possibly, or even back here, but if it was the right fight. I'm not fighting no young killers. I'm not coming out to get flattened in front of my own crowd. But even if I don't have to, if that was my last fight, I'd be happy to quite any day. But we'll see. I'll go away and think about it. I'm not making no harsh, rash decisions straight away. You know, I'm still full of adrenaline and that.
12 years of British title fights and world title fights. Unbelievable nights you've left us with. 15, 20 massive fights. Leigh, what a career that's been, quite seriously. And I'm telling you, it's one of the top 10 careers I've covered in 40 years in this business.
But you know what, I was cautious. I was thinking, like, I'm not really going to get the credit I deserve because everyone's going to think Josh is too old. But I'm actually 2 years older than him. I'm nearly 38, you know. And it gets older and older every time. Little niggles here and there, but I just bite down. My mentality gets me through. Even a bit more nervous, warming up, thinking, what if it does go a few more rounds? Am I prepared? Because I thought I'd get everything pretty quick, but my mentality gets me through, and there's only so many times you can go to that well, you know.
And what about this crowd? I mean, they've been with you through thick and thin, from the tiniest of little leisure centres to giant nights, magnificent nights, roller coaster ride. They've just been unbelievable with you.
I love them because, without a shadow of a doubt, they turn out for me. I'm coming off a loss tonight, sold the arena out really quick. We could have done it probably twice over, to be honest. That's why we think it's the right fight for the City Ground, is it not? You know, we'll see.
Listen, Leigh, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to try and get Josh. And listen, thank you. You've got possession of your daddy. He's yours. Now get him away. Get his gloves off. Throw his gum shield away. Enjoy him. See you later. Thanks very much indeed. I've got Josh coming over now. Hey, Josh. How was it?
Tough. I'm a worst support. I'm my worst enemy. I'm my worst enemy, man. Like, this week I've just I've killed myself. I've killed myself upstairs, and I thought I was in a good place, Bunsey, and I've trained like a demon for this one. I mean, people commenting on how great I looked, all throughout my sparring. I've hit every single one of my sparring partners. Felt fucking tip-top in the gym, and I've come in here tonight strong. I feel like Leigh wasn't the same as he was fucking 2 years ago.
He had a game plan.
But I know he had a game plan, but look, you still get touched.
Yeah.
And I was very wary of him touching me last time, and this time round I wasn't. He caught me a couple of times, but never had the same effect as he did a couple of years ago. But I don't know, man. I couldn't capitalise on it. It fucking, excuse my language.
That's okay. Apologies for your language. I understand. Don't worry.
It hurts, man. Mate. It really hurts. Like, because I've spoken about this for the last 2 years, and that 36 minutes I get to do it. And listen, many opponents have been on the receiving end of what I've done to them. But man, it's just no else I can do, is there?
There is nothing else you can do. But I've got to ask you the question, which I hate asking fighters, especially fighters I've known for 10 years or so. You're going to go away and have a little chat with Sean, have a chat with the family, and think, because listen, I'm going to tell you the same thing I just told Leigh. You two have got nothing to prove. 12 years of championship fights, highs that are unbelievable. What you've achieved, what you did, just Ellen Road itself. Come on, son. If you walked away, you would be honestly, you deserve an open top bus through Leeds.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Bunsey. You know what? Like I just said up there, I said, it's I look terrific at 35, new hairline, straight teeth, but it's too tough a game to be just turn up for an opponent and being second best. I'm a winner, Bunsey. I'm a winner, and the will to strive and to win is always going to be there. But when someone's missing, man, it's too dangerous a sport in boxing. I'm 35 now. I've got 3 beautiful kids at home, and it's like, how much do you keep on giving?
And you do feel like there is something missing, and that's not a criticism, because it looked to me like there was something missing tonight.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if I could see from first, second round, again, I said the same thing 2 years ago in Wembley against Kikachi. I had a comeback last year. It was only a short-term one, but, in the gym, I've been firing on cylinders with young, hungry, fresh, sharp sparring partners, but I don't want to be one of them after-timers, Bunsey.
Brilliant.
You know what I mean? Where they say it's sparring, fight's. So,
well, listen, if you do call it a day, make sure you invite me to the private party, because it will be one of the great nights.
Thank you, Bunsen. Always thank you for those who listen to me. Thank you for support back home.
Listen, get yourself with your family, Josh. Absolutely brilliant. See you later, son. Thank you. Back to you, boys. We figured it might be a bit emotional.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of getting back to family, I've just turned around and his partner Tasha's there, and Richie, I was just sort of saying to her, you were all right, and she gave me a nod, but she'll be feeling it as well, because as we said, you go through all of these massive ups and downs with your partner, don't you, when you're supporting them through the boxing. Before I come to you, Richie, just want to apologise, of course, for that language, and that again speaks to the high level of emotion here, doesn't it? And everybody will be feeling it who's part of Josh Warrington's team.
He's had a terrific career. It just wasn't his night tonight, He gave his all. He just couldn't get over the line tonight, Stace, and he was beaten by the better boxer against a style that he just couldn't crack, and that's just the way it is. But I think he realises deep down that, he's come to the end of the road now. He's had a terrific career, and he's one of the success stories in boxing, in that he's been a 2-time world champion. He's been a man of the people, and he's going to go out sort of on top, and he walks away from boxing. Hopefully he got a few quid, and you can talk to him. He talks properly, and there's no problems there. So I think he's been a great ambassador for boxing, myself.
Absolutely, he is a family man, Ronald, as we know, and he might not have gone out with a win, but if he does finish tonight, he's gone out with a fight that really, really mattered.
Absolutely, to try and settle the score against a bitter rival, a man at a similar stage of his career, 2 men with almost identical credentials, looking to test one another once again. And as he said, the contrast between fight night and what he'd been doing in camp, he said he was flying in the gym, and he was saying that all press week long, but just couldn't get it going tonight. And interestingly, he said he didn't feel that Leigh Wood was the same, having experienced that fight-ending power in the first contest. Perhaps he was prepared for it, but he said it wasn't the same. And in stark contrast, Leigh Wood telling Steve Bunce that he's not making any rash decisions tonight, but what he did categorically say is he doesn't want to go into the ring with any young, hungry, finishing fighters. So now he's looking perhaps to stay in his own generation, maybe back here, maybe at the City Ground, but two different sets of emotions are what I sensed from two men who have been fantastic servants for British boxing.
And it's one thing, Buncey, straight afterwards when you've had this adrenaline, this rapturous applause, they were singing throughout of it, Leigh Wood, one of our own. But the next few days and weeks, the thought of getting back in the gym and after doing all this again might be a different story. That said, just sum up for us what these two have given to the sport we all love.
It's nearly 30 major fights between them for world titles. Outdoors at Ellen Road, just the most amazing night. Indoors, this arena sold out half a dozen times. Leeds Direct sold out about 15 times. British title fights, European title fights, drama like you wouldn't believe. Leigh Wood knocking Michael Conlon out into the arms of his father John at ringside. That night that Lee Selby was beaten by Josh Warrington outdoors at Ellen Road. And the night in Manchester when he beat Carl Frampton. These two have nothing to prove. I didn't get a double retirement tonight, but I think I did get a double retirement tonight. It's been a privilege, as I said to them. It really has. Not bad working with you three either, brother. And four. Charlie, carry on. And Paddy.
Have you finished?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, go on.
Any more names? That, of course, is Steve Bunce. Thank you so much to former world champion Richie Woodall and your commentator this evening, Ronald McIntosh. The live sport continues on 5 Live tomorrow with 2 commentary games for you, with Nottingham Forest against Liverpool from 2 and Spurs against Arsenal in the North London derby from 4:30. We have had a brilliant night of boxing here in Nottingham, and it finished with high emotions because perhaps we may have seen 2 real warriors in the ring for the final time. Thank you for joining us. That's all from us as we now join Stephen Nolan.